Before we begin, I thought it would be fun if everyone lets me know in the comments where they're watching this video from. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe. Now, let's start today's episode. The topic of unidentified flying objects has intrigued humanity for generations, fueling speculation about advanced civilizations and technologies. In recent years, there have been numerous reports of sightings across the globe, with several incidents occurring near critical locations such as military installations and nuclear facilities. One notable event was reported at a nuclear power plant in China, where witnesses described a pyramid-shaped object hovering in the sky. According to social media posts, the sighting was observed by several plant workers and security staff who described it as an extraordinary and baffling event. The object was estimated to be about 50 meters tall, featuring a distinct pyramid shape and a dark, metallic exterior. Strangely, eyewitnesses also reported seeing a smaller, black orb flying in proximity to the larger structure. The event lasted for several minutes, during which time footage was captured and later shared widely on social media, gaining significant attention from enthusiasts and researchers of unexplained phenomena. The appearance of such an object near a nuclear facility raises numerous concerns, particularly in relation to national security and the possible existence of advanced, unknown technologies. Although the incident in China did not disrupt the operations of the nuclear facility, it raises important points for consideration. The appearance of an unidentified object near such a location poses a potential national security risk. Nuclear power plants contain critical materials and systems, making them possible targets for surveillance, interference, or hostile actions. The presence of a pyramid-shaped object near the plant could indicate a threat or highlight the need to investigate possible security vulnerabilities. If the object is not of human origin, it may point to the existence of advanced technological capabilities. This level of technology could influence our understanding of propulsion, energy systems, and space exploration. Studying these unidentified objects might lead to important scientific discoveries. Sightings near strategic infrastructure should encourage governments to adopt clearer and more open procedures for examining and reporting such occurrences. Interestingly, former military personnel have reported that these objects are frequently seen around military installations, suggesting a possible interest in such areas. Considering the broader implications, global collaboration in researching and sharing information about these phenomena is becoming increasingly vital. To address the sighting of a pyramid-shaped unidentified object above a Chinese nuclear power plant and other similar incidents, a comprehensive investigation is essential. Such an investigation should involve multiple stakeholders, including government agencies, scientific experts, and international organizations. Nations should collaborate on studying these sightings near sensitive sites, sharing data, and establishing a standardized protocol for reporting and investigating such incidents. Leading scientists and researchers in relevant fields should be engaged to analyze the available data and evaluate the potential implications of unidentified object sightings, along with working out how they were able to enter restricted airspace without being detected. Advanced methodologies should be employed to study these phenomena. Governments should commit to greater transparency and disclosure regarding these sightings, particularly those occurring near critical infrastructure. This includes releasing unclassified information, declassifying relevant documents, and making data accessible to the public. As of right now, the sighting of a pyramid-shaped unidentified object hovering above a Chinese nuclear power plant serves as a stark reminder of the mysteries that continue to surround the phenomena. While the incident did not result in any immediate harm, it underscores the need for comprehensive investigations, international collaboration, and greater transparency in addressing such occurrences. Whether these sightings are attributed to advanced technologies, secret military projects, or natural phenomena, their implications for national security and scientific inquiry are significant. Pyramid-shaped unidentified object sightings have been documented since the mid-20th century. One of the most famous cases occurred on November 17, 1989 in Voronezh, Russia, with perhaps the most well-known sighting occurring above Moscow's Kremlin. Witnesses reported seeing a massive pyramid-shaped object hovering in the sky. During the Voronezh incident, the object landed and 3 humanoid beings emerged, adding a layer of intrigue to the already baffling sighting. While skeptics argue that such accounts may be the result of mass hysteria or misperceptions, the Voronezh incident remains a compelling example of the pyramid-shaped phenomenon. Another notable sighting occurred in the United States in March 2000. Over the state of Illinois, multiple witnesses observed a large black pyramid-shaped object silently gliding through the night sky. The witnesses described the object as having a matte black surface with no visible lights or windows. This case gained attention due to the credibility of the eyewitnesses, including law enforcement officers and pilots who were unable to identify the mysterious craft. The existence of pyramid-shaped unidentified objects raises numerous questions, and various theories attempt to explain their origin and purpose. One prevailing theory suggests that these pyramid-shaped objects are advanced spacecraft created by advanced civilizations. Proponents of this theory argue that the design of such craft might be more efficient for interstellar travel than traditional saucer shapes, allowing for smoother entry and exit from planetary atmospheres. Skeptics propose that these pyramid-shaped objects may be secret military aircraft developed by human governments. The lack of public knowledge about advanced aerospace projects could explain the secrecy surrounding these craft. However, proponents of this theory counter that the technology displayed by pyramid-shaped unidentified objects exceeds what is publicly known, making it unlikely that they are purely human-made. Some argue that pyramid-shaped objects could be the result of natural phenomena or atmospheric conditions. These sightings might be optical illusions caused by unusual cloud formations, weather patterns, or even reflected sunlight. While this theory may explain some sightings, it doesn't account for the consistency and advanced flight capabilities reported by witnesses, with pilots saying that they've witnessed them flying close to their aircrafts. And note that the shape of these unidentified objects don't match anything that they've seen before. A more speculative theory suggests that pyramid-shaped aircrafts could be interdimensional travelers or time machines. This theory suggests that the observed craft may not be extraterrestrial, but instead exist beyond current human concepts of time and space. Despite its intrigue, the idea is speculative and lacks definitive proof. If pyramid-shaped unidentified objects are ever confirmed, their existence would significantly impact our perception of advanced life forms. It would suggest the presence of civilizations with technology capable of traversing vast distances or manipulating dimensions, prompting deeper inquiry into their intentions, whether benign or potentially hostile. These sightings also highlight the need for more structured scientific inquiry into the phenomenon. With growing numbers of credible witness reports and improvements in observation tools like advanced cameras and sensors, there is a stronger case for adopting a more analytical and open-minded approach. Greater transparency from governments and space agencies is also essential. Releasing declassified information and relevant data would support researchers in analyzing these occurrences and understanding their possible significance for security and international collaboration. If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries and enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up to stay updated on all our latest content. Moving on to the next mystery. Considering Earth's age of over 4.5 billion years and the relatively short span of human civilization, it raises the question of why our era would be of particular interest to potential time-traveling entities. The concept proposed by Tom DeLonge, that unidentified objects might be time travelers, is thought-provoking and challenges conventional ideas about time and existence. At the same time, it highlights how much remains unknown about these phenomena and the true nature of time. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, co-founded by DeLonge, brings together professionals from various sectors, including science, government, and intelligence. This diverse team allows the organization to examine unexplained phenomena through multiple lenses, combining scientific inquiry, technological development, and policy considerations. DeLonge has been instrumental in bringing attention to the subject of mysterious aerial objects, using his public platform to engage a broader audience. Through interviews, public events, and media appearances, he has actively promoted the mission of To the Stars Academy. In recognition of these efforts, he received the Unidentified Object Researcher of the Year award from Open Minds in 2017. Despite this, his work has faced criticism, with some skeptics questioning the scientific foundation of his claims and expressing concern that the organization relies too heavily on speculative theories. Additionally, the commercial pursuits of To the Stars Academy, such as selling merchandise and producing entertainment content focused on unidentified objects, have led some to question the organization's underlying intentions. Despite this skepticism, DeLonge's role in elevating public interest in mysterious aerial phenomena is significant. Through his work with To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, he has played a key part in reigniting public and institutional attention toward unexplained encounters and advocating for greater governmental transparency. Regardless of whether one agrees with his interpretations, DeLonge's dedication to exploring these mysteries reflects a broader human drive to seek answers and expand our understanding of the unknown. Moving on to the next mystery. In the expansive and often enigmatic domain of scientific inquiry, few ideas spark the imagination as deeply as the notion of entities existing beyond our known reality. Dr. Daniel Nems, a trailblazing researcher, is a central figure in this unconventional field. He is best known for developing a device called energy vision, which he claims has the ability to photograph entities from beyond our dimension. With a background in quantum physics and energy research, Nems focused his career on investigating the connections between energy, matter, and dimensions that lie outside traditional scientific frameworks. His work led him to develop a strong interest in theories involving parallel dimensions and alternate realities. Curiously, although he reportedly published some of his findings, very little information about him remains online today, with much of his work seemingly erased. This has led to speculation that he may have disappeared shortly after making his claims public. Nems drew inspiration from the work of theoretical physicists who explored the possibility of dimensions beyond the three we experience, fueling his pursuit of answers in uncharted scientific territory. Moving on to the next mystery. The immense scale of the world's oceans makes it difficult to determine exactly how much remains unexplored, though it is widely accepted that the majority of the ocean has yet to be mapped or studied in detail. Covering approximately 71% of the Earth's surface and containing an estimated 1.3 billion cubic kilometers of water, the ocean represents a vast and largely uncharted domain. Historically, exploration efforts have concentrated on shallow coastal areas, driven by needs related to navigation, fishing, and resource extraction. These well-studied regions represent only a small portion of the total marine environment. In contrast, our understanding of the deeper and more remote parts of the ocean remains limited. Traditional exploration methods, primarily involving ships and human divers, are constrained by depth and endurance, leaving large sections such as abyssal plains, ocean trenches, and underwater mountain ranges largely unmapped. Over the past few decades, advancements in technology have greatly enhanced our capacity to explore these depths. Innovations such as remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, outfitted with high-resolution imaging tools and sensors, have enabled scientists to investigate areas that were once inaccessible. These tools have led to the discovery of previously unknown ecosystems, distinctive geological structures, and new marine species. Still, the vastness and depth of the ocean, with some areas plunging more than 6,000 meters, continue to pose significant challenges. Even with cutting-edge equipment, deep-sea exploration remains a time-intensive and complex endeavor. Moving on to the next mystery. China's cutting-edge artificial sun fusion reactor recently set a new world record, marking a major milestone in clean energy research. In May 2021, the Chinese Academy of Sciences achieved a breakthrough when their fusion device reached an astonishing temperature of 120 million degrees Celsius on May 28. This extreme heat was sustained for 101 seconds, surpassing previous records. Prior to this, the experimental advanced superconducting tokamak, East, maintained plasma at a much lower temperature of 50 million degrees Celsius for a similar duration back in 2017, which was comparatively easier to manage. The reactor has previously reached high temperatures, such as hitting 100 million degrees for 10 seconds in 2018. However, the May 2021 achievement marked the first time both extended duration and ultra-high temperature were successfully combined. While these figures might not be easily understood by those without a technical background, they represent a substantial advancement in the pursuit of sustainable, clean energy and progress in space-related technologies. The 100 million degree mark is widely considered the minimum threshold for initiating energy-generating fusion. Now, researchers in China have demonstrated that plasma can be maintained at 120 million degrees Celsius for over a minute and a half, well above the power-generating benchmark. For context, this is 8 times the temperature of the sun's core. This milestone pushes us one step further to the artificial sun that could revolutionize energy usage. Li Miao, a physicist with the Southern University of Science and Technology, commented, "The breakthrough is significant progress, and the ultimate goal should be keeping the temperature at a stable temperature for a long time." The complexity of the research that goes into a fusion reactor largely comes from trying to emulate the conditions of the sun, as we hope to mimic similar chemical reactions to those that naturally occur in the star. Whereas gravity plays a key role in pushing the nuclei of the hydrogen atoms together in the sun, the same gravitational forces work against us here on Earth and cannot be replicated to reflect the sun's conditions. To address this challenge, the extremely high temperatures and the specialized nature of the generators involved create an effect that, with this new record, is bringing us closer to achieving the desired fusion reaction. The ability to sustain such intense heat for an extended period allows the plasma to remain stable long enough for the fusion process to occur. The new record, which demonstrates both a prolonged duration and a high temperature, indicates that we may be closer to realizing this breakthrough than we previously thought. If these techniques can be refined and made more widely accessible, it could pave the way for a system capable of generating vast amounts of energy without relying on greenhouse gases or producing significant radioactive waste. Many believe that fusion power could be the clean energy solution we've been searching for. While this is an optimistic vision, we are still some time away from it becoming a practical reality. Currently, the energy required to operate the fusion reactor exceeds the energy it produces, but with continued research, we may only be a few decades away from achieving a viable clean energy system. Although significant trial, error, and patience are still needed, this new record marks a crucial step forward in making nuclear fusion a dependable energy source. In the not-too-distant future, it could play a pivotal role in addressing the global climate crisis. Moving on to the next mystery. DNA from the Denisovans has left a fascinating imprint on modern populations in New Guinea. The Denisovans were a group of archaic humans, closely related to Neanderthals, who lived during the Lower and Middle Paleolithic eras, spanning from about 3 million to 50,000 years ago. This now-extinct species of hominins inhabited regions across Asia. Researchers have debated whether the Denisovans represent a distinct species within the same genus as Neanderthals, or if they were merely Neanderthals who lived in the eastern parts of the world. Although the Denisovans disappeared long ago, their legacy remains in the form of their DNA, which has been passed down through generations. While the idea of ancient human interbreeding is not new, recent research from December 2022 suggests that people living in modern-day Papua New Guinea may have inherited a unique genetic variation that can be traced back to the Denisovans. This genetic trace has the potential to influence their immune systems. Joshua Aki, a population geneticist at Princeton University, explained in an interview with Science that the interbreeding, which took place tens of thousands of years ago, continues to affect the biology of people today. Some researchers even propose that this ancient genetic inheritance could influence behaviors like smoking and alcohol consumption, as well as impact health conditions such as celiac disease. A study published in December 2022 in the journal PLOS Genetics reveals that up to 5% of the DNA of people from Papua New Guinea can be traced back to the Denisovans. While the influence of Neanderthal DNA on modern humans is relatively well understood, the potential effects of Denisovan DNA on contemporary populations remain largely unexplored. This under-researched area holds great promise for revealing how deeply our ancient ancestors continue to impact populations worldwide, far beyond what is passed down through more recent generations. The study analyzed the genomes of 56 individuals from Papua New Guinea and found a significant number of mutations inherited from the Denisovans, particularly near genes involved in immune system responses. Researchers then replicated these mutations in the lab by growing cells with the same genetic variations, allowing them to observe how they affected different genes in the body. The results indicated that two of the mutations could actually influence the activity of immune-related genes. While this research is still in its early stages, the lab findings, along with previous studies on Neanderthal genetics, suggest that this field of study could offer valuable insights and be highly impactful moving forward. Moving on to the next mystery. A recent discovery has pushed back human history by a staggering 400,000 years, proving that sometimes the smallest changes can have the most profound impact. While history often feels like it's fixed in the past, it is actually constantly shaped and redefined by the present. Any new finding has the potential to alter our understanding of what came before. In this case, a single jawbone has managed to rewrite our historical timeline by an astonishing 400,000 years. The fossil, a lower jaw, was uncovered in Ethiopia in 2013. The jawbone has been dated to an incredible 2.8 million years old, providing valuable insights into the development of human jaws and teeth over time. As the oldest known fossil from a species within the genus Homo, the genus to which modern humans belong, this jaw has the potential to shed light on how species within this group evolved from their most primitive forms to the humans we are today. This discovery not only helps us understand the evolution of Homo sapiens, but also provides a clearer picture of our ancient ancestors. Prior to this find, fossils older than 2.5 million years were often too poorly preserved to offer meaningful data. This discovery marked a pivotal moment in archaeology, granting us a glimpse into some of the earliest records of our lineage. Dr. William Kimball, director of the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University, explained that the Ledi jaw helps narrow the evolutionary gap. Thanks to this fossil, which represents a key point in the human evolutionary timeline, we now have a better understanding of this transitional period, even if it means revisiting and correcting previous assumptions. This is a prime example of how one small discovery can create massive ripples throughout an entire field of study, reshaping our understanding of humanity's past. The story of human evolution is perhaps one of the greatest examples of the butterfly effect: small changes, minor decisions, and single mutations that continue to impact us thousands of years later. Moving on to the next mystery. Antarctica, the southernmost continent on Earth, is a land of captivating mystery and beauty. Despite its harsh, frozen landscapes and remote isolation, it has long intrigued explorers, scientists, and adventurers alike. Mark Graham, a former engineer with experience working in Antarctica, found himself faced with an extraordinary and enticing opportunity. The Antarctic Research Institute extended an invitation for him to join a specialized reconnaissance mission across the continent's vast, icy expanse, highlighting the complexity and importance of the task at hand. Intrigued and eager to take to the skies once again, he eagerly accepted. On a brisk morning, he set off on a flight with his longtime companion, tasked with transporting the aircraft to and from Antarctica and aiding in field research. The engineer's role was diverse, contributing his expertise in numerous areas to ensure the mission's success. The goal of the expedition was straightforward, but it was during this routine flight that both Mark and his companion witnessed something unusual. Drawing on his decades of experience, Mark's companion expertly navigated the plane over the vast, gleaming white expanse of Antarctica's frozen landscape. It was during this aerial journey that they made an unusual observation. Their keen eyes detected something out of the ordinary amidst the vast landscape. The vast expanse unfolded with a towering mountain in close proximity, and interestingly, both observers remarked that it resembled as if something had been excavating a substantial cavity in that location. The panorama featured an expansive opening bordered by a mountain, prompting both witnesses to draw parallels to a scenario where something might have been involved in creating the opening. The assumption was based on the visible presence of snow and dirt near the entrance, suggesting that some activity or work had taken place in that area. This inference was drawn due to the observable evidence of snow and dirt, indicating that some form of action or maintenance may have occurred at the location. The observers made remarks about the considerable size of the aperture, expressing skepticism about its natural origins due to its seemingly unnatural appearance. Their commentary hinted at a sense of disbelief at the authenticity of the opening. The pilot executed a series of maneuvers, adjusting the aircraft's course to obtain an enhanced visual perspective. His inquisitiveness was aroused, compelling him to navigate closer for a more detailed examination. This aerial exploration was driven by his heightened interest in the subject below. The opening of the cavity was immense, with dimensions large enough to accommodate a Boeing 737 aircraft, showcasing its vast enormity and capacity for substantial objects. The pilot made an approximation that the opening exceeded 200 feet in length, making it sufficiently spacious to accommodate a whole aircraft. The estimation suggests that the opening's vast dimensions were more than adequate for a plane to enter and operate comfortably. Intrigued by the enigma, he made the decision to descend in order to carefully examine the object of fascination. Peering out of the aircraft, both of them noticed that the hole wasn't merely an opening and detailed that it looked as if there was an entrance to an expansive cavern disappearing into the heart of the mountain, shrouded in darkness. Recognizing the potential importance of the discovery, the pair carefully recorded the coordinates on their GPS device and captured detailed high-resolution images of the area. Upon their return, they utilized Google Earth to pinpoint the original entrances, leading to a profound realization of the enormous scale of the cavity. This newfound understanding shed light on the sheer magnitude of the hole. The researchers highlighted the intriguing potential of an uncharted, expansive cavern in Antarctica, while also expressing skepticism regarding its origins, particularly noting the absence of similar formations in the vicinity. The discovery of this unusual structure sparked both fascination and numerous questions about the forces responsible for its formation, making it a singular anomaly in an otherwise uncharted region. The presence of such a remarkable subterranean feature in a largely unexplored area has piqued curiosity and raised complex questions about its geological origins. People who have encountered this entryway are now eager to uncover its secrets, speculating about what might lie inside. One theory, put forward by researchers investigating unexplained phenomena, suggests that the structure could have been created using a laser weapon. This speculation has been further fueled by a noticeable increase in military activity within Antarctica, adding layers of intrigue to the mystery. The growing military presence has led to a range of discussions and theories regarding the potential motives and activities behind these operations, heightening the sense of mystery surrounding the structure. Moving on to the next mystery. Gareth Williams, a Welsh mathematician, left his graduate program to join the UK's Secret Intelligence Service, MI6. Deeply committed to his work and extremely private in his personal life, Williams specialized in analyzing financial transactions, particularly tracking the flow of money from Russia into Europe. His disappearance raised immediate concern among colleagues, as he was known for being consistently reliable. After he failed to appear at work for 7 days, police conducted a welfare check on August 23, 2010, at his flat in Pimlico, London, an Estes safe house. There, officers found his decomposing body inside a red North Face duffel bag, padlocked from the outside with no signs of forced entry. A key to the lock was located inside the bag, beneath his body. The apartment's heating had been left on, which accelerated the decomposition process and hampered toxicology and DNA testing. The coroner ruled that Williams most likely died from asphyxiation, likely due to a lack of oxygen or buildup of carbon dioxide inside the bag. Crucially, there were no signs of bruising, suggesting he may have still been alive when he was zipped inside. Adding to the mystery, investigators found no fingerprints or DNA on the bag's handles or around the bathtub, casting doubt on whether he could have locked himself inside unaided. No fingerprints, or even smudges, were found at the scene, strongly suggesting that it had been deliberately cleaned. Gareth Williams was last seen alive on August 15th, but he wasn't reported missing until August 23rd. Notably, there was an unexplained 5-hour delay between when his sister informed GCHQ about his unresponsiveness and when the police were contacted, leading some to suspect a potential cover-up. Dr. Fiona Wilcox, the coroner in the case, concluded that Williams' death was highly suspicious and likely involved foul play. She openly criticized Scotland Yard for initially treating the case as merely unexplained rather than pursuing it as a homicide. Supporting her conclusion, Dr. Wilcox commissioned 2 expert forensic specialists to try replicating the scenario in which someone could lock themselves inside the duffel bag. After 400 attempts, they failed to do so. She also drew attention to the disorder and confusion during the investigation. Interagency involvement appeared to have contributed to the mishandling of key evidence. Locks and door handles were removed before they were cataloged, and there were concerns that additional, unrecorded items may have been taken. These lapses seriously undermined the credibility and thoroughness of the investigation from the start. Unfortunately, their strongest lead was DNA present on William's hand. For many months, the DNA was investigated as the lab had coded it as being unidentifiable, but later it would be found that this supposed key piece of evidence was simply contamination from the crime scene investigation team that first responded to the body. As that was the only DNA sample found, the realization would be a blow to the investigation as no other leads existed. To outside observers, it would seem obvious that William's death was not an accident at all, but some background evidence focused on by critics of the investigation attempt to throw into question the highly private spy's sexual proclivities. William's old landlady testified that her husband and she were awoken by William's screams one night, and after rushing to his bedroom, the landlady found William tied to the bed and unable to escape. He apologized profusely and said that he had tied himself up just to see if he could escape and that he would never try something like that again. Whether this act of tying oneself up was sexual in nature or the research of a spy about to be operationally deployed is unknown. The self-asphyxiation angle is furthered by rumors of Williams visiting websites that featured bondage, and some critics of Williams say that predilection could have led to an interest in erotic confinement, which could have led to Williams attempting to tie himself up on the bed as the landlady found, which could have led him to trying to confine himself into a bag. A far-fetched theory indeed. However, this angle is vehemently ruled out by the medical examiner, who insists that this is not a case of autoerotic containment or asphyxiation. Dr. Wilcox, the coroner, however, does not believe that any sort of autoerotic asphyxiation was involved, and that since Williams was, quote, a scrupulous risk assessor, any attempts to get himself into the bag would have been combined with his possessing of a knife for escape. Another angle focuses on multiple Russian embassy cars parked in the vicinity of Williams' house just days prior to his death. As Williams' work was primarily centered around Russian criminal activity and money laundering, he was understandably a target. Additionally, the method of killing is consistent with Russian intelligence modus operandi, poisoning with an unknown biochemical agent. Boris Karpachkov, an ex-KGB agent that served for more than 10 years and ranked as a KGB major, and who is now in the UK's version of witness protection, has a new identity and tells the real story behind William's death. While it most certainly wasn't caused by William's sexual proclivities, it did involve the KGB blackmailing him with scandalous photos in order for him to become a double agent. Allegedly, Williams was befriended by a fellow GCHQ colleague named Orion, who was actually a double agent for the Russians. Orion introduced Williams to a third party with whom Williams supposedly had a friendly connection. This Lucas wined and dined Williams, but later spiked his drink and took him to a separate location where he was filmed next to a man and woman who were supposedly in a scandalous position, the specifics which are unknown. Once Williams had come around, the compromising footage was then used as blackmail for Williams to also become a double agent. But this attempt was unsuccessful and the two parted ways. But before leaving, Williams made it clear that any more attempts to blackmail him would result in Orion being reported to MI6 as a Russian double agent. On August 16th, it's believed that Lucas returned to the flat and covertly drugged Gareth Williams, killing him to eliminate any perceived threat to a valuable Russian mole inside GCHQ, an operative still only identified by the codename Orion. Political assassinations designed to silence dissent or deter betrayal are not uncommon for individuals tied to Russian intelligence operations, particularly the KGB. This theory gained traction in part due to high-profile cases like the poisoning of Alexander Litvinenko, a former Russian agent granted asylum in the UK, who was murdered in London in 2006 with a rare radioactive isotope. Inspector Colin Sutton speculated that if Gareth's death was related to his intelligence work, poison would be a plausible method. Former KGB officer Boris Karpichkov even suggested that Williams' body was staged in a compromising position to serve as a chilling warning to others unwilling to cooperate with Russian intelligence. Despite a substantial amount of circumstantial evidence pointing toward foul play, the Metropolitan Police announced in November 2012 that Gareth Williams most likely climbed into the duffel bag on his own and accidentally trapped himself. This controversial conclusion, widely viewed with skepticism, claimed his death was the result of a tragic accident. Critics, including forensic experts and intelligence insiders, argued that this theory was inconsistent with both the physical evidence and the broader context of the case. Many believed that the investigation had been rushed or influenced by external pressure, ultimately leaving key questions about Williams' death unanswered. Moving on to the next mystery. On August 25, 1986, 18-year-old Jennifer Levin had been drinking when she visited Dorian's Red Hand, a bar located near Central Park in New York City. What began as a seemingly normal night out would take a dark turn. Jennifer decided to leave the bar and head home, unaware that her decision would trigger a horrifying chain of events. Early the next morning, around 6:15 a.m., a woman riding her bicycle through Central Park made a disturbing discovery near the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Jennifer's body was found behind the museum. She had left the bar just a few hours prior. The scene was alarming. Jennifer was partially undressed and unresponsive, showing no signs of life. The cyclist immediately called 911, setting in motion a case that would soon dominate headlines across the country. Investigators began working swiftly, questioning anyone who might know something about the tragic event. Their search soon led them back to Dorian's Red Hand, the last place Jennifer had been seen alive. The first significant clue was discovered by the police inside this establishment. Investigators were notified by the bar-goers that Jennifer had not been by herself that evening. She had arrived there with a group of pals and departed with a man. Even though there were little specifics on the man, this knowledge turned out to be important. The authorities had no trouble piecing together the remaining pieces. The police swiftly contacted Jennifer's friends and soon gathered enough details to reconstruct the night's events, including identifying the mysterious man she had been with. He was Robert Chambers, a 19-year-old known for his good looks and tall stature. That night, Chambers was at the bar drinking alone, appearing detached and uninterested in the social scene around him. Around 1 a.m., he approached Jennifer, greeted her, and the two began a friendly conversation. Chambers' 16-year-old girlfriend, Alex Cab, happened to witness their interaction. She had made plans to meet Chambers earlier, but he arrived over an hour late and didn't explain himself. Despite ignoring her, he seemed engaged in his conversation with Jennifer. When Alex confronted him, he was evasive, angry and hurt. She told him she no longer wanted to see him, only for Chambers to respond with a mocking laugh. From there, his conversation with Jennifer continued and grew more involved. Jennifer and Chambers had dated casually before that evening, according to her acquaintances. Jennifer had long been attracted to Chambers and thought he was beautiful. Jennifer, who is eager to get closer to Chambers, sees an opening created by his argument with his girlfriend. Friends watched Jennifer conversing flirtatiously with Chambers in the bar for the next 3 hours. They departed together at about 4:30 in the morning. It was now time for Mr. Chambers to receive a visit from the police. All of this occurred on the same day, and the police arrived at Chambers' Manhattan home a few hours after the body was discovered. When asked about the marks on his face, he said they were caused by his cat. But after looking at the scratches, the cops weren't sure if they were actually caused by a cat. Upon inspecting the cat, they discovered that it had been declawed, which eliminated any possibility of it scratching him. Furthermore, there was a bite mark on his right index finger that did not appear to have been caused by a cat. But the most important thing was to learn more about the terrible tragedy before making any assumptions. However, Chambers flatly denied ever setting foot in the bar. His denial, though, would have no effect because he would soon find himself seated in the police station, with his claims about to significantly change. His story soon changed to paint himself as the victim after he acknowledged that he had actually been with Jennifer that evening. Chambers put it this way: Jennifer attempted to help him. Although he implied that she got somewhat assertive with him, there isn't any hard proof to support that claim. We'll also reveal to you why Jennifer's claims that she assaulted him were untrue by the end of the video. For now, though, let's examine the origin of the scrapes on Chambers' face. In the end, Chambers had to admit that Jennifer, not his cat, was the one with the cat. Furthermore, he disclosed to the authorities his actions when things became difficult. At first, his confession of hitting Jennifer and murdering her would seem to be extremely truthful, but there were a number of discrepancies in the facts that cast doubt on the veracity of his story. What had happened if all he had said was a lie? Jennifer's body was found with apparent injuries, indicating a violent altercation. Jennifer had visible bleeding near her throat, a clear indication that she had been strangled. An autopsy later confirmed this, with Dr. Maria Letzalandi officially listing strangulation as the cause of death. Despite the evidence, Chambers continued to insist on his version of the events. However, the condition of the crime scene contradicted his account. As one investigator pointed out, Jennifer's clothing had been pushed up, hardly consistent with an accident. Her disheveled appearance and the state of her clothes strongly implied that she had been assaulted. Although the evidence against Chambers was significant, proving his guilt without a direct confession posed a major challenge. After 2 years and delays in the investigation, the long-awaited trial finally began. Chambers' trial started on January 4, 1988, with the central argument focusing on whether Jennifer had truly been strangled. On February 9, 1988, Dr. Letzalandi testified that the soft tissue around Jennifer's eyes showed pinpoint hemorrhages, which are often linked to pressure applied to the neck, further supporting the strangulation theory. She explained that this showed that her neck was compressed, proving that she had been strangled. However, Chambers' lawyer Jack Littman said during cross-examination that Chambers may have put Jennifer in an arm lock and strangled her, possibly killing her in a matter of seconds. Littman speculated that Jennifer may have jerked her head back and forth quickly in an attempt to catch her breath, leaving scratches on her neck. Although such a scenario may theoretically occur, Dr. Alandi admitted that it did not correspond with what transpired in Jennifer's instance. Following 9 days of trial without a verdict, Chambers and the prosecution agreed to a plea deal on March 25, 1998. Chambers accepted a sentence of 5 to 15 years after entering a guilty plea to first-degree manslaughter. He also had to admit, as part of the deal, that he meant to hurt Jennifer badly enough for her to die. In the end, Chambers received a 15-year prison term. Chambers served his entire sentence and was released from jail on February 14, 2003. But his eerie background was not going to disappear so quickly. He did appear to be overjoyed to be free once more. However, he was going to be surrounded by the unsolved questions from 17 years ago once more. In a 48-hour interview, Chambers gave a far more thorough account of events than he had disclosed before completing his time. He said they weren't completely naked, but the way she was discovered refuted his assertion, and the injuries on her neck suggested that she had been strangled rather than just struck. Thus, his account did not quite match the available data. At the moment, all he wanted to do was portray it as an accident while also expressing his regret. He continued to act like the helpless victim. In response to the question of why he chose not to call the police, he gave a straightforward response that, on its face, defies criticism. He said he cared and that many people seemed to start believing his stories after he was eventually set free. But the perception of him among the public was about to shift. Chambers was free on bond when the footage that we just watched was taken. Girls were there at a home party in their panties, and Chambers seemed like he was having a great time. But even after 17 years, it seems like he was making up stories again. Additionally, Chambers stated that he remained there when the cops showed up. It could be questioned why Chambers wasn't questioned by the police right away. But the problem is that, to the police, he was just another park visitor at that time, and there was no clear indication of his possible connection to the case. He was just sitting off in the distance on a stone wall. The confusing thing is that he had to have continued to present himself as innocent even after realizing he was responsible for someone's death. His assertion that he was afraid and powerless to act was called into question by this contradiction, which he persisted in doing even after a long period of time. It was time for broadcaster Troy Roberts to bring up the pivotal moment in the narrative. Even after careful examination, the bruise that Chambers described as coming from being struck by someone looked very different from the strangulation marks, raising serious questions about whether the injury was actually caused. Chambers' hand even bore a bite mark, unmistakable proof that someone had bitten him. Even after doing his time, Chambers insisted he had no intention of killing her. He was guilty. He was sorry. He even apologized. The story was never able to come to the satisfying end it deserved, even though all the signs pointed to him killing Jennifer on purpose. It was hard for many to accept that his feelings were genuine. Chambers had made an effort to convey his fear and regret. Except his incarceration revealed nothing except an attitude problem in a man. In July 2005, Chambers was still facing legal issues from his horrific conduct in 1986, even after finishing his sentence. On August 29, Robert Chambers received a reduced sentence of 90 days in jail and a $200 fine after pleading guilty to a misdemeanor drug charge related to a license violation. He was released from Chuan Gang Correctional Facility in New York on July 25, 2023, after serving 15 years of a 19-year sentence. His parole will remain in effect until 2028. What do you make of this case? What do you believe really happened on that tragic day? Why do you think Robert Chambers took Jennifer Levin's life? We'd love to hear your perspective. If you have any case suggestions you'd like us to look into, feel free to share them in the comments section. Moving on to the next mystery. At just 19 years old, Teresa Aller was a student at Champlain College in Lennoxville, Quebec, where she was known for her intelligence and well-rounded personality. On Friday, November 3, 1978, she told friends she planned to spend the day studying and working on a book report for one of her courses. She also mentioned plans to meet up with them around 9 p.m. that evening, but she never showed up. When Teresa was reported missing, authorities initially treated the case as a runaway situation. This early dismissal led to a lack of urgency and inadequate investigation efforts, a pattern that persisted throughout the case. It wasn't until April 13, 1979, 6 months later, that her body was discovered by a muskrat trapper. Teresa was still wearing her jewelry, watch, and clothing when her remains were found in a small body of water in Compton, just about a kilometer from her dormitory. The coroner at the scene noted indications of strangulation on 19-year-old Teresa Aller's body, though a definitive cause of death could not be established. Nevertheless, authorities speculated her death might have been drug-related, suggesting she had overdosed and that fellow students panicked and disposed of her body. However, toxicology results showed no trace of drugs in her system. Alarmingly, police remained dismissive of the possibility of foul play and made little effort to properly investigate the case. Adding to the mishandling, crucial evidence, including Teresa's clothing, was destroyed just 5 years after her remains were found. In the summer of 2002, Teresa's family turned to a close friend and investigative journalist for help. The reporter published a series of articles that presented compelling evidence that Teresa had been murdered, not the victim of an accidental overdose. He also highlighted possible connections to 2 other unsolved cases in Quebec. One involved 10-year-old Manon Dubé, who vanished in March 1978 and was discovered 2 months later, frozen in a block of ice miles from where she was last seen. Her fully clothed body had to be extracted with a hatchet, and her cause of death remains unknown. The other case was that of Louise Camarand in 1977. Whilst police speculated that she'd been hit by a car, there was no evidence to prove it. Louise went missing on March 23, 1977, and was found 2 days later naked but for the shoelace around her neck. Her clothes had been left next to her body, and she'd been sexually assaulted before she was strangled. Both cases remain unsolved, but an FBI consultant backed the idea that the 2 girls were linked with Teresa's death. They suggested that a serial sexual predator was active in the Quebec area during the 70s and advised police to investigate all 3 murders together. Several of the women were also named in these links. In 2004, Quebec's Cold Case Unit was created, and 15 years later, in 2019, Montreal followed suit. However, there appears to be no new leads in any of the cases of the 3 girls mentioned. Teresa's brother John, who was just 14 at the time of his sibling's death, is one of the biggest advocates for seeking justice in Teresa's case, and the other possibly linked women and girls. The last time John saw his sister, she was boarding a train on her way back to college, having just received a Styx album from him for her birthday. During his investigation into her case, he uncovered a troubling pattern of missing women dating back to the 1970s and beyond. Many of these cases shared unsettling similarities. The victims were often found nude or partially clothed, had been sexually assaulted, showed signs of strangulation, and frequently, a vehicle was believed to have played a role. In Teresa's case, there was only one fleeting person of interest, though calling him a suspect may be generous. Some online sleuths speculated that the individual in charge of overseeing the student residence might have been involved. However, he was never questioned by authorities, and he disappeared shortly after Teresa's murder. Following this, the college shut down the residence, despite an ongoing housing shortage. The man's identity and the circumstances of his disappearance remain unknown, and the reason for the residence's closure has never been clarified. To this day, Teresa Aller's murder remains unsolved. Moving on to the next mystery. A chilling mystery that has remained unresolved for nearly 25 years has recently resurfaced in Providence, Rhode Island, potentially offering long-awaited answers. In 1999, Kathleen O'Dowd Bowman, a devoted mother and hardworking waitress, was brutally murdered behind Roger Williams Middle School. Her family has endured decades of heartache, haunted by the lack of justice and the unanswered questions surrounding her death. A recent arrest of an unnamed suspect has reopened old wounds, but it may also bring long-overdue closure. Kathleen O'Dowd Bowman's life was defined by resilience and deep love for her family. As one of 8 siblings and the mother of 4 children, she lived a life full of devotion to those closest to her. Known for her warmth and kindness, Kathleen was a beloved waitress in Providence, admired by both her customers and co-workers. She balanced the demands of motherhood with her job, pouring her heart into everything she did, especially raising the children who meant the world to her. Nobody could have foreseen Kathleen's terrible destiny or the years of suffering that would follow. For Kathleen, the morning of March 11, 1999, started just like any other, but it ended tragically and suddenly. In a remote spot close to the grounds of Roger Williams Middle School in Providence, Rhode Island, her lifeless corpse was found strangled. Police in Providence launched a swift and thorough investigation after finding Kathleen's body. There were difficulties in piecing together the events that led to her death at first. It was difficult for detectives to obtain enough information to identify a suspect, and in spite of initial suspicions, the case was quickly abandoned. Detective Angelo Avant reopened Kathleen's investigation in the last few years. By carefully going over the evidence again and interviewing witnesses again, Avant found new leads that were essential to moving the investigation further. The culmination of these operations was the successful arrest of 53-year-old Providence resident Kevin Williams on Road Street on April 16, 2024, without any incidents. Williams, who was a suspect in the first place but was not charged because there was not enough evidence, is now being charged in the first degree. In Kathleen and her family's protracted fight for justice, his arrest marked a turning point. On April 17, 2024, William was arraigned and the indictment was unsealed in Providence County Superior Court, marking the start of the legal process. Attorney General Peter F. Nerona highlighted the toll violent crimes take on the families of victims and gave the Providence Police Department and investigator Angelo Avant credit for their efforts in advancing the case. Colonel Oscar L. Perez Jr. praised the police for keeping Williams responsible as well. Williams is charged in Providence's 6th Division Court for breaking a domestic no-contact order connected to another domestic violence case, in addition to the charge in Kathleen's case. The investigation and prosecution are being led by Assistant Attorney General James R. Baum, Special Assistant Attorney General Ariel Pittner, and investigator Angelo Avant, guaranteeing a concerted effort to pursue justice. Williams was mandated to be detained without access to bond while awaiting more court dates. It is still necessary to announce the trial's start date. After more than 20 years of pain and unanswered questions, Kevin Williams' arrest for the murder of Kathleen Solman is a major step toward justice. Kathleen's family is experiencing a complex mix of emotions. While they are grateful that progress is finally being made in the case, the pain of her tragic death still weighs heavily on them. They understand that no form of justice can ever truly compensate for the immense loss they've endured. Her brother, Tom O'Dowd, expressed both relief and frustration, relieved that a suspect has been arrested, yet deeply unsettled by the mystery of why this individual targeted Kathleen after so many years. It was shocking, Tom said. No one had ever heard of this man before. Her sister, Cynthia Balcom, echoed the family's ongoing grief and their cautious hope. Now that someone has been detained for this, we can finally begin to move forward, she said. We think of Kathleen every single day. Once the initial shock fades, we'll take comfort in knowing that justice is finally within reach. All I wish is that our mother could have lived to see this day. Moving on to the next mystery. In October 1985, partial skeletal remains of an unidentified woman were discovered inside a plastic bag near Channel Islands Harbor in Oxnard, California. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office conducted an investigation and determined that the remains belonged to a female between the ages of 35 and 50 at the time of her death. However, authorities were unable to obtain any further identifying information. In 2016, the case was entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, NAMUS, and a clay facial reconstruction was created to assist in identification efforts. The image was released to the public in hopes of generating tips. Over the years, investigators followed various leads and conducted comparisons with missing persons reports, but none proved successful. With no definitive breakthroughs, the case eventually went cold, hindered by a lack of new information or viable leads. In May 2023, the Ventura County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit, in collaboration with the Ventura County Medical Examiner's Office, submitted forensic evidence to Othram. They were hoping to determine if advanced DNA testing could help identify the woman. Othram scientists successfully developed a DNA extract from the provided evidence. They used forensic-grade genome sequencing to build a comprehensive DNA profile for the unknown woman. Othram's in-house forensic genetic genealogy team then used this profile to conduct extensive genetic genealogy research, ultimately providing new investigative leads to law enforcement. A follow-up investigation was conducted using the new leads. This led investigators to potential relatives of the woman. A reference sample was collected from a potential relative and compared to the DNA profile of the woman. After nearly 40 years, they had a positive identification of the woman, who is now known to be Gertrude Elliott Littlehill, born in 1864. While Gertrude's life ended in 1915 and was buried, law enforcement received a tip several decades ago that a grave had been robbed and a skull was taken. This was Gertrude's grave that had been disturbed. Gertrude was laid to rest in the Stockton Rural Cemetery. Gertrude was born in Red Bluff in 1865. When she was young, the Elliots moved to Stockton, where Gertrude's father became a prominent attorney. At the age of 16, she graduated high school and, with her remarkable talent for music, was admitted to the Boston Conservatory. Young Gertrude was soon studying in Paris and traveling the world as a musician, but home still called to her. And by adulthood, she was settled back in Stockton, teaching piano and singing. It was in this capacity that she touched countless young lives who came to dearly love Miss Elliott. In addition to her teaching jobs, she was the president and founder of the Saturday Afternoon Club, a women's club that brought renowned musical acts to Stockton. In 1907, 42-year-old Gertrude married her longtime partner, James Littlehill, and the couple joyfully welcomed a daughter named Louise the following year. Sadly, their time together was cut short. In December 1915, Gertrude developed acute appendicitis and underwent surgery in San Francisco. Though she initially appeared to be recovering, she passed away unexpectedly 2 weeks later at the age of 50. Her sudden death deeply affected her loved ones, and she was buried beneath a prominent headstone, one that may have drawn the attention of a grave robber decades later. Over a century after her passing, scientists at Othram successfully recovered DNA from her skeletal remains. Using advanced forensic techniques and genealogical analysis, they created a highly detailed DNA profile that ultimately confirmed the identity of Gertrude's remains. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed exploring these intriguing unsolved mysteries with me. If you found the video fascinating, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Unsolved Mystique for more deep dives into unsolved mysteries. Your support helps me bring you more compelling content. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or any mysteries you'd like me to cover next. See you in the next video.